Welcome back in. It's part 9 of the complete quit drinking course from stopdrinkingexpert.com. Really on the home stretch now, so I thought today we'd look at some frequently asked questions. I went into the secret Facebook group and I asked the guys in there if they had any questions, and I spoke to members of the program as well, and we come up with some pretty common questions. So let's see if I can answer these for you. Now, if I don't answer the burning question that is on your mind at the moment, don't worry, please email me, because I really want to help you. And if it's not a subject I've addressed before, then I will make a video for you and I'll post it up so you get a really in-depth, complex answer to your question. So today's are the questions that I get asked the most often. So let's get started with this. David is first up. Why do you dislike Alcoholics Anonymous so much? Well, the truth is, David, I don't hate Alcoholics Anonymous, but I don't dislike them, because there is no doubt about it, for the millions of people that organization has helped, they are a godsend. They are a lifesaver, and they've done amazing work. So I don't dislike it, and some people do get upset with me because I take a bit of an anti-AA stance at times, and that's only because it didn't work for me, and it doesn't work for the vast majority of people. It's very difficult to get a precise number on how effective AA is, but it's estimated the success rate is between 5 and 7%. 5 and 7% of people who go end up being long-term sober. So for the vast majority of people, it doesn't work. Now, all I can tell you is why it didn't work for me. And there are several reasons. First of all, when I went to AA, I left the first meeting thinking, wow, my drinking's not that bad. Because compared to some of the horror stories, people who'd lost everything, they'd lost their home, their wife, their husband, their job, their children, literally just lost everything because of their drinking. Whereas I was sitting there entirely functional, the director of 2 companies, the patron of a children's charity, earning decent money. I was just drinking every day. So my conclusion from attending an AA meeting was, hey, I'm not that bad, I can carry on. Ignoring the fact that it was destroying my health, wrecking my marriage, making me a bad father, stealing my money, and so on and so on and so on. So that's the first problem I have with it. The second problem is that there is a spiritual element to it, which is fine if you're spiritual. But basically what you have to do in AA is stand up and say, I'm an alcoholic and it's beyond my control. I'm broken and I can't fix it, so I'm going to give the problem to God. Now, there are 2 problems with that, in that if you're not religious, if you're an atheist, then at this point you think, I'm screwed. This system can't work for me because I don't believe in the core principle of what they're saying. Now, secondly, if you are religious, great, and you give your problem to God, what happens if you drink? Yeah, you think God has forsaken you, don't you? You think, well, why isn't God helping me? Why is he let me drink? And you're screwed. So this is why it falls down. And thirdly, I don't like the concept that they say to people, you are broken and you will be broken for the rest of your life. How miserable is that? I don't believe I'm broken as an individual, and I don't believe that I'm going to have to struggle for the rest of my life to avoid the thing I want the most. So AA didn't work for me. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't try it, because there are free meetings all over the place, and you might go along and think, wow, this is amazing, it's the best thing ever. Then good for you, do it. All I'm saying is for the vast majority of people it doesn't work, and for that reason. So David, I don't dislike AA, it's just it didn't work for me. All right, next question. All right, Angela says, I've quit drinking, but I still dream about alcohol. Is this a bad sign? No, it's not, Angela. It's very common. And it's because alcohol has been a permanent fixture in your life for decades. It's always been there. So your subconscious mind has everything in a box. It has programs in place ready to run. Now, you've dramatically changed the environment, and your subconscious needs to work out what's going on. And that's generally what happens in your dreams, is your subconscious filing information into the right places of the brain. So when I quit drinking, I'd say twice a week initially, I was having extremely vivid dreams where I was drinking. I mean, they were so vivid, they were so lifelike, so real, that I would get up in the morning and go and check the garbage to see if there were bottles in it. I wasn't sure. And then it slowed down to about once a week, and then once a month, and then I just stopped noticing it. And every now and again I'd get a dream and I'd go, oh, wow. But it's very common, and the only thing I can tell you, Angela, is if you're getting the same things that happened to me, then it means you're on the same path as me, and the end result of that path is a happy, sober life. So I'd see it as a good sign, and don't worry about it. One more thing to watch out for, guys. The rogue hangovers. This is so unfair. This is like God having a laugh at us. Occasionally, I think this happened for about the first year. Occasionally, I would wake up with a raging hangover, even as though I didn't drink the night before. I know, how cruel, right? But I would wake up and I'd be like, oh, I'm so hungover. Wait, I didn't drink anything. And I'll be totally honest with you, I don't know why that happens. But don't worry about it, because like all these other things, they just fade and they slowly happen less and less and less. So it's something to do with the subconscious. It's perhaps that the subconscious has got used to you having a hangover in the morning, and it's almost like and it's a psychosomatic response. It creates what it expects to be there. And slowly this will disappear as well. And some people don't get it at all, so don't worry about it too much. Next question. Mike says, how do I deal with my drinking buddies? This is a really good question. Oh, man. Some people, when they quit drinking, they make up excuses. They say, oh, I'm on antibiotics. I'm on this treatment from the doctors. I'm not allowed to drink, or I'm just having a month off. Now, the problem with all these excuses is they will come to an end. People will go, hang on a minute. You've been on antibiotics for a month. What's going on? Are you ill? And they'll expect you to return to drinking. In my experience, the best way to deal with this is firmly. It's not any of their business what you do. Now, you can laugh and joke and pretend, and make light of it, but they'll just carry on. And I'll explain why they'll carry on in a moment. What I have found is just give them a very firm answer that you're not messing around. You just say, I just don't want to drink. And if they keep going, just say, listen, just leave it. You've got to be a bit badass about it, because they'll just keep going. You've got to make it clear to them that this is a non-negotiable for you. And you can't be too polite about that. You have to say, stop. Because if you change the substance, you wouldn't go out with a vegan going, go on, just try a bit of chicken. Go on, have a bit of chicken. Why won't you have any chicken? What's wrong with you? Have some chicken. You wouldn't, would you? You'd go, oh, you're vegan, all right. And you'd leave it. But drinkers feel psychological pain when they're with non-drinkers. And this is why they're pushing you. And remember what I've said previously, we're motivated by two things only: the need to gain pleasure and move away from pain. Now, when you raise your standards by stopping drinking, it causes psychological pain to your drinking buddies, because intrinsically they know what they're doing is wrong. They know they're drinking poison for fun. They too have noticed all the bad stuff, the aches and pains, the deterioration in their health, their weight gain, their lack of focus, their tiredness. They've noticed all this, but they don't want to think about it. And when you quit drinking, you force them to think about it, ergo, you give them pain. So now they have two options. They can raise their standards to your level, or they can drag you back down to their level. Which is easier? Of course, easier to bring you back down than to raise their own. So they'll try and get you drinking again at all costs. And it can be quite aggressive sometimes. I was at a Christmas party about 5 years ago, and this one woman who was on my table, it became her mission for the evening to get me drinking. All the way through the night, she kept coming up to me saying, you're boring. You're ruining this party for everyone. And I was like, how am I ruining? Because you won't have a drink with us. You're bringing everyone down. And it was scary how aggressive she got. And in the end, I left the party because I just thought, I've had enough of this. Because she was getting more and more drunk and more aggressive. And it was just becoming unpleasant. So be prepared. People will get quite committed to you drinking again. And you must deal with it firmly and stick to where you are. Now, what I will tell you is, within an hour of being at an event, a function, or out with your friends, within an hour, you'll be glad you didn't drink. Because here's what happens, right? You go in, everyone orders a drink. You're there with your Coke, or your tonic water, or your mineral water. And initially you might go, oh, I feel a bit left out. I feel like I'm missing out on something. And then slowly, as your friends drink, you'll notice them change. They become stupider. They become less articulate. They become childish and ridiculous. And if you're out with people that you respect, intelligent people, you will see intelligent people with great brains and fascinating views on life become absolute zombified idiots. And then they start stumbling, and then they start slurring. Then they start telling the same story over and over again. And you have to say, yeah, you've just told that story. Yeah, but the other drunk people think it's hilarious. And in that moment you go, wow, I love life outside the bubble. So be firm with your drinking buddies. And some of these people, I hate to tell you this, but they're not your friends anyway. They're just fellow drug addicts. And drug addicts like company because it's social proof. It says what I'm doing is okay because look, everyone else is doing it. So you have to take an inventory of your life a little bit, and you need to look at some of these people. And you need to say, are they my friend? Would they be there for me in an emergency? Or are they just people that happen to be in the same space as me? Are they people bringing me down? And some of these people, you'll need to lose them because they're not really your friends. And I will remind you that if you lie down with dogs, you will get up with fleas. So when you raise your standards with your health and you stop drinking, you perhaps should also raise your standards with what you do with your time. Because sitting in a bar, laughing at things that aren't funny is not a valuable use of your time. So you have to take a whole look at your life and decide who's going to stay in it and who's leaving and what you're going to do with your time. Right, next question. Tony says, does anyone ever return to normal drinking? Very rarely, Tony. Very, very rarely. Less than 5%. First thing I'd like to say is, why would you want to? Why would you, if we changed the drug, if I said to you, I've not had any heroin for 2 years now, but I think I might be able to just do a little bit of heroin every now and again. What do you think? Would you say, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, Craig? Of course you wouldn't. Or if you want to make this more personal, imagine your grown-up child comes to you and they've had a problem with drinking and they've been clean for 2 years, and they say to you, Mom, Dad, all that trouble I had with alcohol and the fact that I haven't had a drink in 2 years now, I've decided I think I can probably start drinking at the weekends. What do you think? Would you say, great idea, son, off you go? Of course you wouldn't. You'd say, oh, I think that's a really bad idea. And so here's the question. If you're willing to give that good advice to your child, why aren't you willing to give it to yourself? So it's very, very rare to return to normal drinking, whatever that is. And I'll tell you why. Because you have learned how to be a problem drinker. And you've done a very good job of it. Well done. And it's a bit like if you don't ride a bike for 10 years, do you think you'd get on it and then just fall off because you wouldn't know how to do it? Of course not. You'd just start riding it. You've learnt it. Can't be unlearned. If you learnt to swim and didn't swim for 10 years and then you fell off a boat, would you just sink to the bottom? No. You'd start swimming. Because this information is stored. And you have learnt to an expert level how to drink in a problematic way. And I'm afraid that will never go away. It will get weaker, but it will always be there to come back. And so the moment you take a drink, you become a problem drinker again. This is a binary condition. You either drink or you don't. There is no third option. Dorlan says, this is a question about relapse, I think, really. Can I use Antabuse for 30 days to break the cycle? Look, you know my thoughts on prescription medication. They all come with side effects. They all come with their own withdrawal. So you're adding a problem into the mix. Now, I'm not saying don't do it, and that's a conversation you should have with your doctor. But the thing is, if you go through my craving process, where you get the craving, glass of water, break the pattern, thought field therapy. If you do all of that and you're still crazy, I'm going to drink, I'm going to drink, I'm going to drink, and taking an Antabuse tablet is your final straw, then do it. But if you have the discipline to take that tablet in that moment when all you want to do is drink, then I would argue that you also have the discipline to not drink. Do you see what I'm saying? Because if you don't have the discipline to control your drinking, you probably don't have the discipline to take the tablet. So unless someone forces it into your mouth at that point, I don't know how you're going to regulate this in the future. But I think I'm going to leap to an assumption here. I'm going to assume you're not doing all the steps I've told you about, because we get lazy with this. Seriously, in this order: glass of water, pattern interrupt, tapping. Give yourself a score. Tapping. Give yourself a score. Keep going until the craving comes down. In the most part, a craving is going to last 10 seconds and then it's gone. Now, you may have another craving in 5 minutes' time, so just repeat the process. Just get disciplined about running the pattern that we've talked about. Simon emailed me actually the other day. He said, look, I'm a passionate non-drinker now. How do I spread this message to my friends? And actually what Simon said was he's tried to go out there and convince all his friends to stop drinking, and he got a lot of abuse. And I understand that. And he wants to know how he can do this effectively. Simon, look, you have to appreciate, as excited as you are about this, other people are not. And you cannot change other people. Now, if a friend of yours comes up to you and says, Simon, listen, I've seen that you're not drinking anymore. My drinking's making me so miserable. Will you please tell me how you did it? Then great. Go crazy. Give them all the details. But if you go up to a drinker and say, well, that's poison you're drinking, you're just going to get abuse. They don't want you to attack their drug. And they'll attack you because you're giving them pain. And they'll attack you in a very violent way, not physically, but this is something very special to them. And you turning up saying that the thing they love more than anything else is vile poison, you may as well slap one of their kids. So, Simon, I would give up on that, trying to preach this message. Only talk about this with people who ask for your help.